Long ago, in the heart of the Wild West, lived a young Apache woman named Ayana. From the moment she was born, Ayana was different. Her eyes were the color of the summer sky, a bright, shimmering blue, unlike the dark eyes of her tribe. Her hair was like spun gold, catching the sunlight and gleaming like a hidden treasure, instead of the raven black of her people. These differences weren't just about how she looked. Ayana also had a birthmark shaped like a soaring eagle across her left shoulder. To some, it might have seemed beautiful, but to the elders of her tribe, it was an omen, a sign that she was touched by something unnatural, something cursed. The Apache people were deeply connected to the spirit world, and they believed that anything unusual was a disruption of the natural order. Ayana's unique appearance made them uneasy. Whispers followed her like shadows. Children were warned to stay away. Even her own family treated her with a mixture of fear and pity. "She brings bad luck," they would murmur, avoiding her gaze. "The spirits are angry." Growing up, Ayana tried to ignore the whispers and the stares. She tried to fit in, to be like the other girls. She darkened her hair with berry juice, hoping to hide the golden strands. She avoided looking people in the eye, afraid of the judgment she would see reflected there. But no matter what she did, she couldn't change who she was. The elders watched her, their faces grim. They saw her difference as a threat to the tribe's well-being. After a particularly harsh winter, where the hunting was poor and illness spread, the elders made a difficult decision. They declared that Ayana was the cause of their misfortunes, a cursed child who must be cast out to appease the angry spirits. With heavy hearts, her family led her to the edge of the canyon, a place of jagged rocks and whispering winds. They left her with a few supplies, a blanket, a knife, and some dried meat, and turned away, their faces filled with sorrow and regret. Ayana watched them go, her heart breaking with each step they took. She was alone, abandoned by her tribe, left to face the harsh wilderness and the heavy weight of a curse she didn't understand. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Ayana stood on the edge of the canyon, a solitary figure against a vast and unforgiving landscape. The canyon became Ayana's new home, a harsh and lonely place. Jagged rocks scraped against the sky, and the wind howled through the narrow passages, sounding like mournful spirits. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Ayana learned to survive, her fears slowly replaced by a quiet determination. She found a small cave hidden behind a waterfall, and that became her shelter. She hunted small animals with a knife her family had given her, learning to be quick and silent. She gathered berries and roots, careful to avoid the poisonous ones. The canyon was unforgiving, but it provided. Loneliness was her constant companion. She missed her family, even though they had cast her out. She missed the sound of laughter, the warmth of the fire, the comfort of belonging. Sometimes, she would climb to the highest point in the canyon and look out at the distant mountains, imagining her tribe living their lives without her. She talked to the wind, telling her stories, sharing her fears. She sang songs to the stars, hoping they would carry her messages to someone who cared. She even talked to the eagle on her shoulder, whispering secrets to the silent bird. One day, while exploring a new part of the canyon, she stumbled upon a small pool of water. It was hidden in a grove of cottonwood trees, a secret oasis in the harsh landscape. As she knelt to drink, she saw her reflection in the water. For the first time in a long time, she truly looked at herself. She saw the blue of her eyes, the gold of her hair, the mark of the eagle on her shoulder. She saw the strength in her face, the determination in her eyes. She realized that she was more than just a curse. She was Ayana, a survivor, a child of the Wild West. That day, something shifted within her. The weight of the curse didn't disappear entirely, but it felt lighter. She started to see the beauty in her differences, the strength in her solitude. The canyon was still a lonely place, but it was also a place where she could be herself, without judgment, without fear. She was alone, but she was also free. She began to understand that surviving in the canyon wasn't just about finding food and shelter. It was about finding herself. It was about discovering her own strength, her own beauty, her own worth. One sweltering afternoon, as the sun beat down upon the canyon, Ayana heard a sound that was unfamiliar to her. It wasn't the wind, nor the cry of a hawk, nor the rustling of a lizard in the rocks. It was the distinct clip-clop of a horse's hooves. Cautiously, she crept to the edge of the canyon wall, peering down into the dusty trail below. There, she saw him, a lone cowboy riding a sturdy brown horse. He wore a worn leather hat, a faded blue shirt, and dusty chaps. He looked tired, his face weathered by the sun and the wind. This was Jeremiah Stone, a wanderer, a dreamer, a man who had seen his share of hardship but still held onto hope. He wasn't looking for anything in particular, just a place to rest his head for the night and maybe find some water for his horse. Jeremiah stopped at the base of the canyon wall, near the small pool of water Ayana had discovered. He dismounted, his joints cracking with age and weariness. He let his horse drink, then filled his canteen from the pool. Ayana watched him from above, hidden in the shadows. She had never seen a white man up close before. She had heard stories from her tribe, stories of broken promises and stolen land. She didn't know what to expect. As Jeremiah was about to remount his horse, he looked up. His eyes met Ayana's. He didn't flinch, didn't gasp, didn't show any sign of fear or surprise. He simply smiled. "Hello there," he called out, his voice warm and friendly. "Name's Jeremiah Stone. Mighty hot day, isn't it?" Ayana hesitated. She wasn't sure if she should answer him. But there was something in his eyes, something kind and gentle, that made her trust him. "Ayana," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "Ayana," Jeremiah repeated, testing the name on his tongue. "That's a pretty name. Mind if I come up there and say hello properly?" Ayana thought for a moment. She could refuse, she could hide, she could let him ride away. But something inside her urged her to say yes. She had been alone for so long. Maybe, just maybe, this cowboy wasn't like the others. "Yes," she said, a little louder this time. "You can come up." Jeremiah smiled again, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reached his eyes. He tied his horse to a nearby tree and began to climb the steep path leading to where Ayana stood. Their lives were about to change forever. Jeremiah reached the top of the path, his breath coming in short puffs. He took off his hat and wiped his brow with a red bandana. He looked at Ayana, really looked at her, taking in the blue of her eyes, the gold of her hair, the eagle on her shoulder. He didn't see a curse. He saw a beautiful young woman. "It's an honor to meet you, Ayana," he said, extending his hand. Ayana hesitated for a moment, then reached out and took his hand. His grip was firm but gentle. It was the first time she had touched another person in months. "Thank you," she said softly. "So, what brings you out here all alone?" Jeremiah asked, his voice casual. He didn't pry, didn't push. He just wanted to know her story. Ayana hesitated. Should she tell him? Should she reveal the secret that had haunted her for so long? She looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of judgment or fear. But she saw only kindness and understanding. Slowly, haltingly, she told him her story. She told him about her unusual appearance, about the beliefs of her tribe, about the curse that had been placed upon her. She told him about the loneliness, the fear, the pain. Jeremiah listened patiently, without interrupting. When she was finished, he didn't say anything for a long time. He just looked at her, his eyes filled with compassion. Finally, he spoke. "Ayana," he said gently, "I don't believe in curses. I believe in people, and I believe you are a very special person." He paused and smiled. "That eagle on your shoulder? That's not a curse. That's a blessing. It means you're free. It means you're strong. It means you can soar." Ayana stared at him, her eyes wide with surprise. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. No one had ever seen her as a blessing. You really think so?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jeremiah nodded. "I know so," he said firmly. "You just need to believe it too." That day, standing on the edge of the canyon, Ayana began to see herself in a new light. Thanks to a kind cowboy named Jeremiah Stone, she began to believe that maybe just maybe, she wasn't cursed after all. Maybe she was something else entirely. Maybe she was a blessing waiting to be discovered. Jeremiah didn't leave that day. He stayed in the canyon, making camp near Ayana's cave. He helped her gather firewood, shared his food, and told her stories of his travels. He spoke of bustling towns, vast plains, and towering mountains. He painted a picture of a world far beyond the canyon walls. At first, Ayana was wary. She couldn't understand why this kind man would want to spend time with her, a cursed outcast. But Jeremiah was patient and persistent. He showed her, through his actions, that he genuinely cared. He admired her knowledge of the canyon, her ability to track animals, her skill with a knife. He asked her about her tribe, about their customs and beliefs. He listened intently, eager to learn. As the days turned into weeks, an unlikely friendship blossomed between them. They spent hours talking, sharing their thoughts and feelings. Jeremiah learned about Ayana's deep connection to nature, her respect for the spirits, her longing for acceptance. Ayana learned about Jeremiah's past, his dreams, his hopes for the future. He told her about his family, who lived far away in a small town. He showed her pictures of them, his wife, his children, his grandchildren. Ayana was fascinated by these images of a life she had never known. Jeremiah helped Ayana see her worth and beauty, not just on the outside, but on the inside too. He pointed out her kindness, her courage, her intelligence. He encouraged her to embrace her differences, to see them as strengths rather than weaknesses. He taught her how to read and write, using a tattered book he carried in his saddlebag. He showed her how to play the harmonica, filling the canyon with music. He made her laugh. He made her feel alive. He made her feel like she belonged. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Jeremiah looked at Ayana and smiled. "You know," he said, "you're not cursed, Ayana. You're blessed. You're one of the most amazing people I've ever met." Ayana smiled back, her heart filled with warmth. For the first time in her life, she truly believed it. She was no longer just Ayana, the cursed outcast. She was Ayana, the friend of Jeremiah Stone, a woman who was finally beginning to see her own worth and beauty. Their evenings were filled with stories. Ayana shared tales of the Apache people, their connection to the land, their reverence for the spirits, and their complex social structure. She described the importance of family, the role of the elders, and the traditions that have been passed down for generations. She spoke of the Apache's fierce warrior spirit and their unwavering defense of their homeland. She explained their beliefs about the natural world, their understanding of the medicinal properties of plants, and their ability to live in harmony with the environment. Jeremiah, in turn, told Ayana about the world beyond the canyon. He spoke of the pioneers who had traveled west, seeking new opportunities and a better life. He described the growing towns and cities, the railroads that crisscrossed the land, and the advancements in technology that were changing the world. He shared stories of cowboys and cattle drives, of gold rushes and boom towns, of sheriffs and outlaws. He explained his own beliefs, his faith in God, his belief in hard work, and his commitment to honesty and integrity. He talked about the importance of community, the value of education, and the need to treat everyone with respect, regardless of their background or beliefs. Ayana learned about Jeremiah's world, about the challenges and opportunities that faced the settlers, and about the conflicts that arose between them and the Native American tribes. She began to understand the perspective of the white man, even though she didn't always agree with it. Jeremiah, in turn, learned about Ayana's world, about the beauty and complexity of Apache culture, and about the injustices that had been inflicted upon her people. He gained a deep respect for their traditions, their beliefs, and their way of life. They didn't always agree, but they always listened to each other. They challenged each other's assumptions, broadened each other's perspectives, and deepened each other's understanding. Through their stories, they built a bridge between their different worlds, a bridge of understanding, respect, and empathy. They learned that even though they came from different backgrounds and held different beliefs, they had more in common than they thought. They both valued family, community, and respect. They both yearned for peace, happiness, and a sense of belonging. and they both believed in the power of love to overcome all obstacles. As the seasons changed, so did their relationship. The warm days of summer gave way to the cooler nights of autumn, and the friendship between Ayanna and Jeremiah deepened into something more. It wasn't just companionship they shared, but a deep, abiding love. They found comfort in each other's presence, a sense of peace they had never known before. Ayanna admired Jeremiah's kindness, his wisdom, and his unwavering belief in her. Jeremiah admired Ayanna's strength, her resilience, and her connection to the natural world. He saw her not just as a friend, but as a soulmate, a partner, the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. He knew that their age difference and their different backgrounds might raise eyebrows, but he didn't care. He loved her for who she was, inside and out. Ayanna, too, felt a love for Jeremiah that was unlike anything she had ever experienced. She had never imagined that she, a cursed outcast, could be loved by someone like him. But Jeremiah had shown her that she was worthy of love, that she was beautiful, that she was special. She loved his gentle touch, his warm smile, his comforting words. She loved the way he looked at her, with eyes that saw beyond her appearance and into her soul. She loved the way he made her feel safe, cherished, and free. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Jeremiah took Ayanna's hand in his. "Ayanna," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "I love you. I love you more than words can say. Will you be my wife?" Ayanna's heart fluttered. She had dreamed of this moment, but she had never dared to believe that it would actually happen. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Yes, Jeremiah," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Jeremiah smiled, a radiant, joyful smile that lit up his face. He pulled her close and kissed her, a long, tender kiss that sealed their love and their commitment to each other. From that moment on, they were more than just friends. They were partners, lovers, and soulmates. They were ready to face whatever challenges life threw their way, together. Their love was a beacon of hope in the harsh wilderness, a testament to the power of love to overcome all obstacles, to heal all wounds, and to transform a curse into a blessing. Their happiness, however, was soon to be tested. One morning, as the sun rose over the canyon, Ayanna and Jeremiah heard the distant sound of drumming. It was a sound Ayanna hadn't heard in a long time, a sound that stirred both fear and longing in her heart. She knew what it meant. Her tribe had returned. As the drumming grew louder, a group of Apache warriors appeared at the edge of the canyon, their faces grim and determined. Leading them was Ayanna's father, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and hope. "Ayanna," he called out, his voice echoing through the canyon. "We have come for you. The elders have reconsidered. They realize now that you are not cursed. They want you to come home." Ayanna's heart pounded in her chest. Part of her yearned to return to her tribe, to be reunited with her family, to be accepted once again. But another part of her knew that she could never go back to the life she had before. She had changed too much. She had found love. She had found acceptance. She had found herself. She looked at Jeremiah, her eyes filled with uncertainty. He squeezed her hand, offering her his support. "It's your decision, Ayanna," he said softly. "I'll stand by you, no matter what you choose." Ayanna took a deep breath and stepped forward, facing her father and her tribe. "I hear your words," she said, her voice clear and strong. "But I cannot come home. I'm no longer the person you left here. I have found a new life, a new love, a new purpose." Her father's face fell. "But Ayanna," he pleaded, "you belong with us. You are Apache. You cannot turn your back on your people." "I will never forget my people," Ayanna replied. "But I must choose my own path. I must follow my heart." The elders stepped forward, their faces stern. "You have been corrupted by the white man," one of them said, his voice filled with anger. "You have turned your back on the spirits. You will bring shame upon our tribe." "I have not turned my back on the spirits," Ayanna replied. "I have simply found a new way to connect with them, and I have found a love that is true and strong. I will not let your fear and your prejudice dictate my life." The confrontation grew tense. Ayanna stood firm, refusing to be swayed by her tribe's beliefs. She had to confront her past and their beliefs in order to choose her own future. The decision she was about to make would change her life forever. The elders conferred amongst themselves, their faces etched with disappointment and anger. Finally, Ayana's father stepped forward. "If that is your decision, Ayana," he said, his voice heavy with sorrow, "then we must respect it. But know this, you will always be welcome among your people. The door will always be open for you to return." Ayana nodded, tears streaming down her face. She knew that she was breaking her father's heart, but she also knew that she was making the right choice for herself. She couldn't go back to a life of fear and prejudice. She had to embrace the new life that Jeremiah had offered her, a life of love, acceptance, and freedom. The Apache warriors turned and began to walk away, their drumming fading into the distance. Ayana watched them go, her heart filled with a mixture of sadness and relief. She was saying goodbye to her past, but she was also saying hello to her future. Jeremiah put his arm around Ayana, pulling her close. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Ayana nodded, wiping away her tears. "I'm sad to see them go," she said, "but I know I made the right choice." "I know you did," Jeremiah said, squeezing her hand. "And I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself." They watched as the Apache warriors disappeared over the horizon. Then, hand in hand, they turned and walked back to their cave, ready to begin their new life together. They packed their belongings, said goodbye to the canyon that had been Ayana's home for so long, and set out on a new adventure. Jeremiah had told her about a place in Colorado, a beautiful valley nestled in the mountains, where they could build a home and start a family. Ayana was excited and nervous. She had never been outside the canyon before. She didn't know what to expect, but she trusted Jeremiah, and she knew that as long as they were together, they could face anything. As they rode away from the canyon, Ayana looked back one last time. She saw the sun shining on the rocks, the wind whispering through the trees, and the eagle soaring overhead. She smiled. She was leaving a part of herself behind, but she was also taking a part of the canyon with her, the strength, the resilience, and the spirit that had helped her survive. She was ready to embrace her new life, her new love, and her new destiny. The journey to Colorado was long and arduous, but Ayana and Jeremiah faced it together, their love growing stronger with each passing day. They traveled through dusty plains, over towering mountains, and across rushing rivers. They encountered friendly settlers, wary travelers, and breathtaking landscapes. Finally, they arrived in the valley Jeremiah had told her about. It was even more beautiful than she had imagined. Lush green meadows stretched as far as the eye could see, surrounded by snow-capped peaks that touched the sky. A crystal-clear river meandered through the valley, providing life-giving water to the land. "This is it, Ayana," Jeremiah said, his voice filled with pride. "This is our new home." Ayana gazed at the valley, her heart filled with joy. She knew that this was where she was meant to be. This was where she could finally build a life of peace, love, and belonging. They found a perfect spot near the river, a clearing surrounded by tall pine trees, and they began to build their home. They worked side by side, their hands calloused, but their hearts full of love. They felled trees, hauled logs, and hammer nails. They built a sturdy cabin, a place where they could weather the storms and share their dreams. It wasn't easy. They faced challenges along the way: harsh weather, scarce supplies, and the occasional curious bear. But they persevered, supporting each other and never giving up on their vision. As their cabin began to take shape, Ayana felt a sense of pride and accomplishment she had never known before. She was building something with her own hands, something that was strong and beautiful, just like her. When the cabin was finally finished, they stood back and admired their handiwork. It was a simple structure, but it was filled with love and warmth. It was their sanctuary, their haven, their home. They planted a garden where Ayana grew herbs and vegetables. They raised chickens, which provided them with fresh eggs. They explored the surrounding wilderness, discovering hidden waterfalls ancient forests, and breathtaking vistas. They started a new chapter in their lives, a chapter filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. They were building a home, not just a structure made of wood and stone, but a life built on love, trust, and mutual respect. As word spread about Ayanna and Jeremiah's arrival in the valley, people began to visit their cabin. Some were curious, some were lonely, and some were in need of help. Ayanna, with her knowledge of herbs and healing, quickly became known as the community's healer. She used the plants she had learned about in the canyon, combining them with the knowledge Jeremiah had shared about modern medicine. She treated everything from coughs and colds to burns and broken bones. She listened patiently to her patients, offering not just medical advice, but also a kind ear and a comforting presence. She understood their pain, both physical and emotional, as she treated them with compassion and respect. The settlers, initially wary of Ayanna's Apache heritage, soon came to trust and respect her. They saw her as a valuable member of the community, a skilled healer, and a kind and generous person. Ayanna found a new purpose in her life, a way to use her knowledge and skills to help others. She felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known before. She was no longer just Ayanna, the cursed outcast. She was Ayanna, the healer, the woman who brought comfort and healing to her community. She taught the children about the plants and their medicinal properties, sharing her knowledge and passing on her traditions. She helped the women with childbirth, offering her support and guidance. She cared for the elderly, ensuring that they were comfortable and well-nourished. Jeremiah supported Ayanna in her healing work, building her a small clinic next to their cabin and helping her gather supplies. He was proud of her and admired her dedication to her community. Together, they created a place of healing and hope in the valley, a place where everyone was welcome, regardless of their background or beliefs. They showed the community that love, compassion, and understanding could bridge any divide and heal any wound. Ayanna finally found the acceptance and belonging she had longed for her entire life. She was no longer an outcast, but a valued and respected member of her community. She had found her purpose, her place, and her home. She was blessed. Years passed in the valley, filled with love, laughter, and a growing sense of community. Ayanna and Jeremiah's cabin became a gathering place, a haven for those seeking comfort, healing, or simply a friendly face. Ayanna's unique appearance, once a source of shame and rejection, now became a symbol of her individuality and strength. The settlers no longer saw her as a cursed outcast, but as a wise and compassionate woman, a valuable member of their community. She participated in town meetings, sharing her insights and offering her perspective. She helped organize community events, bringing people together and fostering a sense of unity. She taught the children about the importance of respecting nature, preserving their traditions, and embracing their differences. She was invited to share her stories at community gatherings, telling tales of her Apache heritage, her life in the canyon, and her journey to Colorado. She spoke of the importance of understanding and empathy, of bridging the gaps between different cultures, and of finding common ground in their shared humanity. The community embraced Ayanna, not just as a healer, but as a friend, a neighbor, and a fellow human being. They celebrated her successes, supported her in times of need, and honored her contributions to their shared life. Ayanna finally felt like she truly belonged. She had found a place where she was accepted for who she was, a place where her differences were celebrated rather than condemned, a place where she could be herself, without fear or judgment. She was no longer defined by the curse that had haunted her for so long. She was defined by her kindness, her compassion, her strength, and her love. She had transformed her pain into purpose, her rejection into acceptance, and her curse into a blessing. She looked around at the valley, at the smiling faces of her friends and neighbors, at the sturdy cabin she had built with her own hands, and she knew that she had found her home. She had found her family. She had found her place in the world. She was finally free. She was finally loved. She was finally home. Ayanna and Jeremiah lived a long and happy life together in the valley. Their love for each other only deepened with time, growing stronger with each passing year. They faced the joys and sorrows of life hand in hand, always supporting each other, always cherishing each other. They watched as the valley grew and prospered, as more settlers arrived and built their homes. They saw the community evolve and change, but they remained a constant presence, a symbol of hope and healing. They welcomed children into their lives, not their own, but the children of the community. They taught them about the importance of kindness, compassion, and respect. They shared their stories, their wisdom, and their love. Jeremiah continued to be Ayana's rock, her constant source of support and encouragement. He admired her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering dedication to her community. He loved her more than words could say. Ayana continued to be Jeremiah's guiding light, his inspiration, and his soulmate. She appreciated his kindness, his wisdom, and his unwavering belief in her. She loved him with all her heart. They celebrated many milestones together: birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, and countless other special occasions. They laughed, they cried, they danced, and they sang. They lived each day to the fullest, grateful for the love they shared and the life they had built together. They faced hardships too, as all couples do. They experienced loss, illness, and disappointment. But they always found a way to overcome these challenges, drawing strength from their love and their commitment to each other. As they grew older, their hair turned gray, their faces wrinkled, and their bodies weakened. But their love remained as strong as ever. They held hands, they shared stories, and they continued to cherish each other's presence. They knew that their time together was limited, but they didn't fear death. They had lived a full and happy life, filled with love, purpose, and belonging. They were ready to face whatever came next, together. Their love story became a legend in the valley, a testament to the power of love to overcome all obstacles, to heal all wounds, and to transform a curse into a blessing. Years after Jeremiah passed peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by the love of his Ayana and the community they built together, Ayana sat on the porch of their cabin, watching the sun set over the valley. Her hair was now completely silver, her face deeply lined, but her eyes still sparkled with the same warmth and wisdom that had drawn Jeremiah to her so many years ago. She thought about her life, about all the joys and sorrows she had experienced. She thought about her tribe, about the curse that had been placed upon her, about the loneliness she had felt in the canyon. And she thought about Jeremiah, the kind cowboy who had seen her not as a curse but as a blessing, the man who had loved her unconditionally, who had helped her find her worth, who had given her a new life. She realized, with a clarity that only comes with age and experience, that she had never been cursed. She had simply been different. She had been unique. She had been waiting for the right person to come along and show her what it truly meant to be blessed. Jeremiah had been that person. He had shown her that love could conquer all, that acceptance could heal any wound, and that even the most painful experiences could be transformed into something beautiful. He had taught her that true blessings weren't about appearance or circumstance, but about the love and connections we share with others. He had shown her that what matters most in life is not what we have, but who we are and how we treat others. She smiled, a peaceful, contented smile. She was grateful for her life, for the love she had shared with Jeremiah, and for the community she had helped create. She had found her purpose, her place, and her home. She was truly blessed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Ayana whispered a prayer of thanks to the spirits, to Jeremiah, and to the universe for all the gifts she had been given. She closed her eyes, feeling a sense of peace and contentment wash over her. She was ready to join Jeremiah, knowing that their love would continue to shine brightly in the valley, a beacon of hope and healing for generations to come. And so, the tale of Ayana and Jeremiah became a timeless story, whispered from generation to generation in the valley. It was a story about love, about belonging, about the power of acceptance to transform lives. It was a story that reminded everyone that true beauty lies not in outward appearance, but in the kindness of our hearts and the strength of our spirits. It was a story that celebrated the differences that make each of us unique, the qualities that make us special, and the blessings that we all have to offer the world. It was a story that taught the children that judging others based on their appearance or their background is wrong. It was a story that encouraged them to look beyond the surface, to see the beauty within, and to treat everyone with respect and compassion. It was a story that inspired the adults to challenge their own prejudices, to embrace diversity, and to create a community where everyone felt valued and loved. It was a story that reminded them that even the most broken hearts can be healed, that even the most painful wounds can be overcome, and that even the most cursed individuals can find their blessing. The story of Ayanna and Jeremiah was a living testament to the idea that what is perceived as a curse can often be a blessing in disguise. Ayanna's unusual appearance, which had led to her rejection and isolation, ultimately became the very thing that made her special, the very thing that drew Jeremiah to her, and the very thing that allowed her to heal and inspire others. Her story showed that true blessings don't come from fitting in or conforming to societal expectations, but from embracing our differences, celebrating our individuality, and using our unique gifts to make the world a better place. It showed that true blessings come from love, from acceptance, from the connections we make with others, and from the purpose we find in our lives. And so, the valley continued to thrive, guided by the spirit of Ayanna and Jeremiah, a place where everyone understood that true worth lies within, and that love is the greatest blessing of all. The end.